But Johnny, let's end the podcast taking a look at DC. And I mean, some people are going to be like, guys, why is it whenever we talk about DC, it's usually depressing stuff? But that's just how it goes with the DCEU. I mean, very excited with the DC streaming service and with everything they've launched for that and Titans and everything. But today we're kind of looking at a negative topic for the DC and the DCEU. And Johnny, I'm basically just going to throw it out there to you. Basically, there was a Screen Rant article. I'm going to put it down below in the description because it's an important read for this. And their title of their article was "The DCEU Ruined Batman and Superman, but it's not Zack Snyder's fault." I will ask you, did the DCEU ruin Batman and Superman?
I don't know if they ruined it, but they surely didn't do them justice. Justice. Batman v Superman, I'll just let you tell them how you feel about it.
Mine, it's exactly, I'll get right into mine.
Well, no, I was just going to say,
well, you mentioned it.
Your example is how,
I'll say it.
How you feel about it is the example of how well
I'll
it
say
did.
I'll say it in one line. The DCEU did not ruin Batman and Superman. BVS ruined Batman and Superman. That's the difference.
There you go.
That's the difference to me. And that's what I think of BVS.
Yeah. Well,
I could have went into the bathroom and come up with a better movie than what I got.
Yeah.
When we talked about this, like pre-podcast, I was like, yeah, remember the night we saw BVS?
Oh, you were...
you were like, you were fuming.
Yeah.
I was furious. Like, you know it was a bad movie when you're looking at Ricky, and I'm just like... just nothing. I had nothing to say. And then it was just like...
he was livid.
And then it just, boom, all just came out basically like freaking Ghost Rider.
What the fuck was that?
Yeah, exactly. And I was bitching the whole way, and one of our mutual friends who's a DC guy was trying to talk me off the ledge, how it wasn't that bad, which is like, no, that was a huge flaming By the way, that made me think of this. An aside really quick. This week, going through names, as I'm a teacher, going through names for 8th graders, and the one girl's like, oh yeah, my name is Martha. My first reaction out loud in front of the class is, what name did you say? What name did you say? And she's like, Martha. I was like, my mom's name is Martha. My mom's name is Martha. Only a few kids got what I was going with, but I appreciate those students because they are true DC fans. My mom's name is Martha. But yeah, for me...
Why'd you say that name?
Yeah, why'd you say that name? Why'd you say Martha? My mom's name is Martha. Which, for me, that movie ruined Batman and Superman for me.
Yeah.
Because Man of Steel, technically the beginning of the DCEU, didn't ruin Superman.
No, it was okay. It wasn't fantastic, but it was okay.
And here's the thing of the article that I want to ask you. I get what they're saying, and I get what the Screen Rant article goes into, because, technically, is it Zack Snyder's fault? Part of me can go, no, I guess you're right. Originally, Man of Steel was supposed to be Man of Steel 1, Man of Steel 2, Man of Steel 3. And that was it. It was supposed to be Superman only. It was supposed to be the Zack Snyder Superman to Christopher Nolan's Batman. That's what it was supposed to be. Just like Christopher Nolan's Batman run. 3 Superman movies for Zack Snyder. That turned into, because of DC's race with Marvel, Man of Steel, BVS, Justice League. Do you like that they put in the article headline, but it's not Zack Snyder's fault?
I'm sorry, who wrote it? Who directed it? I mean, part of it, you can't blame all of it on him, but a part of it is his fault.
So you're saying, so your mindset is, you were in that kitchen. You were throwing some of the ingredients in.
You blame where blame is due, just like credit where credit is due.
And that's like for me. I know me and you were talking to a comment buddy, one of my former bosses, where he was like, when I said ruined Batman and Superman, he kind of like gave the one eyebrow raised of like, intrigue me. How did it ruin Batman and Superman. And that's why with me, I don't think the DCEU ruined Batman or Superman. Because when you look at it, Man of Steel, and this is what Zack Snyder, Man of Steel did not write Man of Steel. He did not produce Man of Steel. He directed Man of Steel. When I watched Man of Steel, I didn't hate Man of Steel. Was it the superhero movie, the Superman movie I was expecting? No, but it wasn't terrible.
Exactly.
If we flash forward to BVS, I will give Zack Snyder this credit. He did not write it. He did not produce it. He directed BVS. All right, so you didn't write it, so I can't pin that on you. But the directing, like, the directing to me is more of like that real dark tone. That dark tone that he went in on. Wonder Woman, he wrote the story, he produced it, didn't direct it. Then you have Justice League, he wrote the story and directed it. And then you'll have Aquaman, he's going to be an executive producer. Wonder Woman, he is a producer. And The Flash, he is a producer. So out of those movies, the ones that I'm looking at, Justice League, BVS, Man of Steel. The three that are like either hot garbage or it wasn't great, it wasn't bad. He all had a hand in directing.
Yeah.
The one I mentioned that he didn't direct, but he wrote the story,
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman. I loved Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman was fantastic.
So maybe this just proves that, hey, Zach, when it comes to superhero movies,
You shouldn't be directing them.
pitch into the story, just stay out of the director's chair. Because even look at this, Suicide Squad, he was a guest director. And I didn't like Suicide Squad at
Not very much.
all. I mean, just look at some of the movies. I'm going to list the movies he directed. You have, that I've seen. So you have 300. I actually like 300.
Yeah, 300
But
was
yet
good.
again, 300, not a superhero movie. Like, I walked that where it's like, yeah, it's supposed to be dark. It's about 300 men giving up their lives. Plus, Leonidas, I mean, you've got, that was basically the coming out party, basically, for, I'm blanking on his name. Why am I blanking? Gerard Butler. It was basically his coming out party with 300. Watchmen, another movie I had no problem with. With 300, Zach wrote the story, or he wrote the movie and directed. Watchmen, he just directed it. So someone else wrote the story and produced. You've got the Legend of the Guardians, Owls of Ga'Hoole. I like that movie, but that was an animated movie. He directed it. I actually like that one. Sucker Punch, which he wrote, directed, and produced, I heard was horrible. I did not hear good things from the people I know that saw that movie.
I thought that one was okay.
Then you got into what we were doing. Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, Justice League. Basically, then he hit his DC train that we already know. So for me, I mean, most of those movies that were, it's either to me, like, I think what you said is perfect. Like, it's perfect to where there might be someone going, all right, guys, you're harping too much on Zack Snyder. Is it all Zack Snyder's fault?
No.
No. But like you said, a little bit of the blame needs to be put on both. And DC, I've talked about this ad nauseum. DC screwed this up from the start. They screwed it up from the start. What they need to do, and I kind of feel like they're starting to do that now with Henry Cavill walking away, Ben Affleck walking away. It's basically putting all the Batman, Superman stuff we've had since 2013 into a garbage can, lighten the match, and just throw it in that garbage can. And just let it burn. Just let it burn. And just walk away and do one of these and go, all right, we're moving on. We are moving on. Because I get people who are like, in the past, Batman and Superman were the only ones that worked. Like, and that's one of the points that the Screen Rant article says. That back in the day, Batman and Superman were the only ones that worked. Well, kind of like what we talk about on Too Old to Game a lot, much like how gaming is become more popularized, I would say, or more like back in the day when we were kids, when we were 7, 8, 9 years old. I was talking about this to Mark. I played Aladdin on the Sega. And when I beat that game, there was a sense of accomplishment that I've never felt in gaming since, like, I don't know, the mid-2000s, early 2000s. Because it felt like, all right, you're playing this game. When you beat it and got all the way through, you were skilled enough. It was actually challenging to where you were skilled enough to beat that game. Nowadays, it's, because like Mark says, you buy the game, you expect, hey, I want to be able to play the whole game.
Yeah.
If I can't play through it because it's too difficult, that's on you, not on me. I want my money back, which we've talked about before, the Cuphead dilemma.
Yeah.
Where basically, yeah, you know what? It's hard. If you didn't get through it, that's your problem.
Guess what? There's an easy mode, but you don't get the full story.
Exactly.
That's your fault.
I like that because it goes back to that old school. Movies are the same thing.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, early 2000s, the reason why Batman and Superman were the only ones that worked, they were the mainstream ones. Superheroes weren't what they were.
No.
In the 90s.
No, you're right. Completely.
We didn't have this superhero culture that we have now that everyone eats up. In this day and age, you can make a Flash movie. You can make a Wonder Woman movie and make it work. You could make it work. If you tried to do that in the 90s, you would have one of the biggest flops on your hands.
Because people don't know who that is.
Exactly.
Very much. Unless they
The only
know
ones
comics.
they cared about were Batman and Superman. And that's why when we were kids, that's why I felt DC was way more popular than Marvel when we were a kid.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
it was Batman, Superman.
The only ones that you could have gotten to work in the 90s,
Spider-Man.
Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, and the X-Men.
Yeah, so 2 for Marvel, 2 for DC.
Those are the only ones you could have gotten to work because guess what? There were cartoons for them for kids.
Yeah.
So those would be the ones that like, hey, I know who that is. When it came to like adults in the 90s, Batman and Superman. Because guess what? Those were the mainstream. Those were the ones everybody knew.
And with Batman 2, well, that's another thing. Like, the reason why it might work now is those kids that were watching Batman the Animated Series, us, we're now older. We're now having kids of our own.
Yeah.
Like, even people older than us, maybe like 10 years older than us, maybe like in their 30s, almost 40s now. Even them watching those.
Yeah.
And then being like, hell yeah. Now, even though I'm older, I'm still into that right now. And then they're having kids. And it's just basically introducing them to it and such as well.
Basically, the concept is from the 90s till now, all that stuff has evolved.
Yeah. Which back then, if you think of, I'm not even talking about, our parents.
Yeah.
The reason why our parents would be like my dad with Batman, think about what they had when they were kids. Adam West. They had the Adam West Batman. Like, they didn't have a Spider-Man TV show, or maybe they did, but it wasn't.
There was a Hulk TV show.
Yeah, with Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anything like what the Adam West Batman is.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Exactly.
And that's why I feel like, back then, these are the only two that worked. Yeah, because that's where it was as a culture. Now, because basically, I'm going to say Marvel kicked down that door and made superheroes like, and I remember talking to Mark, this was like before the first Avengers movie, where I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, for years now, have been like, all right, this is going to be the one where the superhero train ends. Be wary, people. Be wary. Superhero movies are going to get quite unpopular after this one. Then it happens, and we keep going. All right. It's like the Mayan calendar. All right, guys, the world's going to end
apocalypse.
here. Yeah, the world's going to end here. Nope, didn't end. All right, I was wrong. It's this next
We have another
one.
date ready to go.
It's this next movie that is going to end superheroes. And, like, do I think it's going to last forever? No. I think it's going to mold. I think that after Avengers 4, 5, whatever it is coming up next. I lose track of numbers.
4, unless you want to say a Civil War, Captain America, Civil War, Avengers 2.5.
Okay. So basically the next Avengers film, that might shift how we see superhero movies.
Yeah.
Where they're no longer, because even DC, they're not going continuity. And like, they're in the same universe, but it's not all connected 1v1 and they all have to fit into the same timeline. I just think what it was is we are at a place in our superhero society to where Batman and Superman back in the day, and I'm saying back in the day being like the 90s when we were kids, you could throw out a Batman movie and make your money.
Exactly.
Could you still do that now? Yes. But because of social media, because of how good and how popular these side characters are that are not Batman and Superman, that just means we expect those two, Batman and Superman, to be better. So,
put up on a huge
these
pedestal.
guys raised the bar. You can't be at the same level anymore. You need to raise the bar.
Yeah, they're put up on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm. So I don't think the DCEU has ruined Batman and Superman. It's just showed us that maybe the rest of the heroes have come up to their level. And the movies that we've seen with them, you can't just put Batman and Superman in a movie and expect people to love it.
Mm-hmm. Like, you have to actually really dig your hands in now.
Mm-hmm. Because that's where we're at. Because one of the things that they looked at is, and I'll ask you this, how do you think this plays in? One of their big bullet points in the Screen Rant article is that the alter egos were removed almost entirely. And they kind of reference how, I'll read a little part of it. One of the most underrated influences of the MCU is how it gradually eroded the idea of superheroes' alter egos. Tony Stark declared himself Iron Man at the end of the first outing. So too did Steve Rogers never hide behind Captain America or Thor take up the Donald Blake persona. It's such a low priority for these series that even Peter Parker has his secret identity revealed to Aunt May at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming. It's for the benefit of the universe, streamlining interactions and allowing audiences to identify more directly with the characters, but has also removed it from the wider superhero formula. And this has some startling results when applied to other franchises. Do you think that plays in at all? Do we need, is that part of it? That, hey, in the DCEU, especially I think with Batman, really, I mean, you could say really too for Superman because of the Clark Kent thing. Mm-hmm. But with Batman, Bruce Wayne you can't have Batman without Bruce Wayne. And I don't think they didn't completely throw that aside, but I think what they're talking about is when Clark and Bruce are talking at that party, they know who each other are, and they shouldn't have known who each other are. Or they didn't know, but they had an idea.
Well, if anything, Bruce should know who
Superman
is, or who Clark Kent is. Not the other way around, unless he already looked through the cowl, which I don't think they had the interaction like that yet.
No, they didn't.
Okay, so then they should know who each other are.
Yeah.
Well, one should know who the other is, but I would give it to Bruce to know who Clark Kent is.
Bruce does his research.
It does.
He knew who Diana was.
Number one detective.
Yeah, exactly. He knew who Diana was because he did the research on her and had the photo of her. What do you think about the alter ego
thing? I don't 100% agree with their point on that because, well, one thing is how much do you actually want to see of their alter ego life in the movies? I'm sorry, I'm there to see Iron Man.
Yeah.
I'm there to see Captain America. I'm not there to see Steve. And we do, in those first introductory movies, get to see the part of their life. Yeah, I get it. We didn't see Donald Blake.
You don't need
that's
to. That's
one iteration. That's only one iteration of Thor. Yes, the original 60s comics of Thor. But there's other iterations of Thor we could have gone with. It doesn't need to be Donald Blake. And there's Matt something. I can't remember the last name. There's actually Thor. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of Bruce Banner started as Bruce Banner and then has become the Hulk because that's what people want to see. Iron Man, that fit his personality perfectly. Hey guys, I'm Iron Man.
Yeah. And like Captain America, I mean, he wasn't going to just be like, I'm Steve Rogers, because really it's even out of the suit. It's like, oh, hey, there's Cap.
Yeah, exactly. Captain America. It's just known as Captain America is Steve Rogers. I've never known it, and maybe I'm wrong, I've never known it as, oh, Captain America. Oh, I got to take the mask off. Now I'm Steve Rogers.
Well, I mean, think about that. Of Captain America 1, he did have the mask.
Yeah.
Ever since then, he hasn't. It's just been...
Well, it was... when he was being paraded around, he had the mask.
Okay.
When he went on his first mission, he had a pair of goggles for driving the motorcycle. He had a helmet on, but it wasn't really like he pulled those goggles off when he was actually fighting.
And like that's the thing when it comes to Batman and Superman, though, that I feel like the alter ego, like you said, Robert Downey Jr. We don't need a Tony Stark alter ego. Yeah, he's Tony Stark, but we know they're the same.
Yeah.
Same with, like you said, Thor, Captain America. With DC, the alter egos to me are important, but it's not necessarily like how often do I need to see him in this? Because I think of Batman. And with Batman, there are certain things that Bruce Wayne can do that Batman cannot. For example, in the Dark Knight trilogy, Bruce Wayne working with his company and basically working with Lucius Fox with everything, couldn't do that as Batman.
Nope.
Can do that as Bruce Wayne.
Exactly.
And that's why more of it with Batman, I feel like Batman needs that alter ego. Because he needs that. Like with the other supes, he doesn't need like Diana to be like, oh, Bruce, is he Batman? Oh, Batman, are you Bruce? No. It's for all the outside of it. And that's why, to me, if anything, the alter ego is most important to Batman. If anything. Superman, it's only important. It would only be important if Lois Lane didn't know, but Lois Lane knew he was Superman by this point. So by then, it's like, oh, we don't care if you're Clark Kent, because really you're only hiding it from Lois Lane. And at that point, you're only hiding it from people at the Daily Planet. But that's why with the alter egos, like, I don't want to see them completely gone away, because, like, for Batman,
Batman,
it's important.
Like, Batman, it's important. Superman, I would say not so much. Yeah, you want to have a taste here and there of it, but you don't want to have a movie, like, overly focused on that.
It's only important if Lois doesn't know he's Superman.
Or even if Lois does. You want, it's not just to hide from Lois, it's to hide from everyone else, because he wants to protect the Clark family. Just like the Spider-Man thing that was brought up in that.
Yeah.
It's not to protect... Spider-Man from Aunt May finding out he's Spider-Man.
It's to protect Aunt May from the Scorpion.
Exactly, from the Scorpion.
The Sinister Six.
Exactly, from any of the villains. It's to protect his family, not to protect Spider-Man from Peter Parker.
Bruce doesn't have that because Bruce is all alone.
Exactly.
With Alfred.
But the thing is,
Alfred.
Aunt May also in the comics finds out. So what's the big difference, honestly? Yeah, she found out kind of early.
I'll be honest. I'm going to say this. This will be a little spoiler for the Spider-Man game. I know that you're going to play it, but it's not a huge spoiler. There's a part in that game, spoiler if you haven't played it, and blah, 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 blah. But basically, there's a part in the game where it's a cinematic between him and Aunt May, and something happens, and you can see on Peter Parker's face, holy shit, I have to get there. But I can't, because then Aunt May will know. And Aunt May just looks at Peter and goes, go, I know. And he just like, what? She's like, yeah, I've known for some time now. And it's like you get that interaction of like, all right, Aunt May knows. It's not a huge thing, but it's like, oh, Aunt May knows you're Spider-Man now.
Exactly. But that's the thing, is Aunt May in the comics and apparently in the game knows he's Spider-Man or finds out he's Spider-Man.
And like for Spider-Man, he also has the alter ego. He's got the extra wrench of hey, I work with Dr. Otto in the lab. I don't want Dr. Octavius. I didn't want to let Octavius know I was Spider-Man because then when he became the villain, he would then know. But I guess Octavius finds out anyways that he's Spider-Man.
Yeah,
so, I mean, there's that. But, I mean, there's that whole side to it as well. Like, Spider-Man and Batman would be the only ones, I think, that would need alter egos.
Yeah, well, they have alter egos for certain reasons. Batman's is because there's stuff that Bruce Wayne can do, Batman can't, and vice versa. Where Spider-Man, it's
like the Flash, because you're not going to wear the costume around everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But the one with Spider-Man is because he's protecting his Aunt May, Mary Jane, whoever else. It's just the fact of, hey, this is there's for reasons, and you can't like use Aunt May finds out. Aunt May finds out in the comics. Aunt May finds out in the game. Yeah, it's not to protect Peter Parker from Aunt May or Spider-Man from Aunt May. It's to protect Aunt May from Scorpion, Mysterio. You know, the kind of the dumber villains that the Rhino won't figure it out on his own. No. Otto Octavius, pretty damn smart.
Green Goblin, he'll figure it out.
He'll figure it out. Yeah. But for sure, Otto Octavius, because of how smart he is, Green Goblin's going to eventually find out. Whoever else is on the higher tier of thinking, whereas Rhino,
maybe
Scorpion,
like a Kingpin.
Kingpin might find out. But like I said, Rhino, Scorpion, they're not the smartest villains. They're not going to find out. They're just there. I'm here to kill Spider-Man.
I want pictures of Spider-Man. Get me Spider-Man.
Get me Spider-Man.
Basically JJJ. But yeah, I mean, and maybe that's the MCU ruining things with MCU doesn't need alter egos. Why would the DCEU? And then kind of the last thing they hit is they kind of put it off as the mistake was treating Snyder's Elseworlds take on the DCEU canon. And basically what that meant is what I talked about earlier. His darker view for Superman was supposed to be Superman in that trilogy. And it ended up being what became the DCEU, which... we were all like, really? Do we really need a dark, gritty DCEU? I mean, really, the dark and gritty only works for Batman because Gotham is constantly like. Even look at the color palette for Batman the Animated Series. It's different shades of blacks and grays. There's some colors in there, but like the background, dark blues, grays, and blacks. It's a very dark color palette. Yeah. On that animated series. Even like Batman's suit is like
gray
blacks and grays.
With just the yellow to show the symbol.
Later on, they put in like a little bit of blue shadowing on the black undies that he wears over the spandex. But the thing I want to ask you before we give kind of the definitive did it ruin, any final things that we haven't mentioned to where it's like, you know what, this has got to be said? No,
to me, it's just, everyone needs to take their part of the blame. And that's Zack Snyder, that's DC itself, that's not DC, the comics, DCEU.
The DC higher-ups, too. Like,
yeah, that's your fault, too.
For how long was I saying, in Jeff Johns we trust, in Jeff Johns we trust? And then we find out they never even gave him they never gave him control to do anything.
What they should have done in the first place is just consult. I would just say, people who had something to do with it.
Let Jeff Johns be Kevin Feige. That's what I was saying from the beginning. If there's anyone that's going to know what these characters are like, it's maybe the guy who wrote enough comics to do, that made me infuriated when I found out it was basically like Jeff Johns really didn't have no control within that. And we talked about that when Walter Hamada took over. Yeah. And I just, right now at the DCEU, did it ruin Batman and Superman? I'm going to say with Batman, no. The reason why I'm saying no is because obviously we're going to have another Batman movie. Let's see how that is. Superman's a little bit trickier though. And the reason why I say maybe for Superman, count on your hands, Johnny, how many good Superman movies do we have? I don't know if you could count. Maybe one. Maybe Man of Steel.
Maybe. I thought it was okay. I wouldn't go with good.
But think about all the old Superman movies. No. They're not that good.
No.
They're not that fan favorite kind of a movie.
No.
And that's why I think the DCEU hasn't ruined Batman, but might have ruined Superman, because now with Henry Cavill leaving, them moving to now a Supergirl movie and not a Superman movie, how do you come back from this? And that's the thing. It's how will they come back? What do you think? Has it ruined either of them, the DCEU?
I wouldn't necessarily say it ruined them, because their popularity is still going to be there no matter what. Mm-hmm. Whether it's not going to be necessarily there for the cinematic now, but it is, the popularity is still there. I don't know how many people are actually going to go, well, you know what? Because of that Superman movie, you know what? Fuck Superman. I'm done with Superman. No, I just like you. If you liked reading the comics, you're still gonna read the comics.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing I'm thinking about
cinematically, maybe.
I feel like it's gonna be maybe like a new Superman movie. I don't know. The other ones haven't really been that good.
But if you're a diehard Superman fan, you're gonna go see it.
I'm not talking about the diehards.
I'm just saying.
I'm talking about the in-betweeners.
Like you and I are still gonna probably go see it.
Well, yeah, no, but I'm talking about the people that are not Superman diehards that are like with. That
casuals.
Exactly. It might be like I'll wait for my superhero friend to tell me if it's worth seeing kind of a thing. Where any Marvel thing gets spewed out, even the casuals are like, hey, I got to go see it. And it's got that hype to it. Well, like because Batman will come out and people will be like, oh my God, I got to go see it, even if they're not a diehard Batman
at this point
fan.
Because they may have cinematically ruined Superman then, and Batman's kind of tailing behind there just because of what they did with him in BVS, a little bit in Justice League, and
we'll see what happens with him and Matt Reeves' Batman too.
Yeah.
I feel like Batman is not ruined because of that, and because
I didn't say he is, but he's on the tail end.
No, I know, but because of, I think the popularity with Batman is a little bit higher than Superman. Any final thoughts before I wrap this up? Oh, here's what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on, have you seen the images of Joaquin Phoenix as Joker?
I have. It actually looks pretty good.
I can't, like, I saw the set photos and then the picture of him in the makeup, and I was like, all right, maybe I'm not going to make fun of this movie anymore.
Yeah, there's a little clip of, like, him and like turning into the Joker, basically.
Yeah. And I saw that and I was like, okay, now I'm intrigued for this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
You bought me in on it, DC. You bought me in. Just do this one. Let's forget about oh God, I can't even remember his name. What's his name? The Joker we all hate. He was in Suicide Squad.
Jared Leto.
Yeah, Jared Leto. Let's just forget.
I was gonna give you some time, see if you could figure it out.
Was not even gonna at all. Joaquin Phoenix, he's my Joker. Hashtag Jared Leto. Hashtag not my Joker. But basically, this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. Is Batman, is Superman ruined by the DCEU? Also, let us know what you're thinking about in any topics we have today. If you notice me scratching during the podcast, I don't have, like, the itch for, like, it's not like I'm addicted to anything and I'm trying to get off it. I got a mosquito bite on my hand. As I was sleeping, the damn bugger got me, and periodically throughout the podcast, I've been scratching it. So that's why I've been scratching my hand.
Nah, Ricky's getting off the drugs.
A little housekeeping, yeah. All that weed that people think I smoke on the fast break with all my hot takes. This is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below. Patreon.com, down below in the description. If you want to help support us, want to join a podcast, that's how you can do it. Make sure to also check out our store. We have the t-shirt there. We also have the on-call guest as a one-off $10 purchase on the store. If you don't want to join Patreon, you can just $1 and then be a guest on the, or $10 one time and then be a guest on the podcast. Make sure
what
to
about
check out
$1 10 times?
$1 10 times, then yes, maybe. No, that would just make you get the next 10 Patreon podcasts, because that's what our $1 reward. I don't know. You're being an asshole, Johnny. MoserellPodcasts.com, where you can get MVP each and every day. And then last but not least, make sure to go onto iTunes. Please give us a 5-star rating. Also, give Too Old the Game a 5-star rating. We are now on iTunes with most of our podcasts. What's Your Fantasy is the only one that we are waiting on now. I want to thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Want to thank you guys for listening on podcast services around the world. And as always, have a good day, everybody.